Hello viewers, today we are at the residence of the Australian High Commissioner, His Excellency Gregory Andrews. He's seated. Join me, let's engage him. His Excellency, good afternoon.
Hey Solomon, how are you today?
I'm fine, sir.
Good.
Hope you are fine too.
I'm very well, and
it's a pleasure having you.
Thank you, and welcome to the High Commission.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, please have a seat.
Thank you. I see behind you 4 flags. I know the Ghana flag and the Australian one we know. But what about the other 2?
Yeah, so in Australia we have 3 national flags. We have our national flag of Australia, which is this one, with the Union Jack and our Federation Star and the Southern Cross. But we also have the Aboriginal flag, which is the flag of the traditional owners of Australia. Australia was colonised by England, but before England arrived, Indigenous people walked the earth in Australia for 60,000 years. And so this flag represents the Indigenous people of Australia, the mainland, and the Torres Strait Island flag, this one, represents the Indigenous Australians who are Melanesian peoples who live in the Torres Strait.
Wow, that's good to know. A bit of education there for me. I never knew. And so you came to Ghana somewhere July 2020.
That's right. I've been here for about 7 months now.
And how has your stay so far been?
Well, it's been very adventurous. I've acclimatized to the weather, and I've really enjoyed the warmth and the hospitality of the Ghanaian people.
Okay. And a lot of people seem to like you. Ghanaians seem to like you. You become a sort of a celebrity ambassador. How does that make you feel?
Well, it has its ups and its downs, and many days I just like to be a normal person and walk down the street and enjoy myself like everybody else. But the reality is that my job here in Ghana is to represent Australia, not only to the people of Ghana, but to 120 million people in 9 countries across West Africa. So I have to accept that I'm always on duty as Australia's High Commissioner, and Australia has many good stories to tell about our values and the importance that we attach to things like Ghana does, to democracy and to freedom of speech, gender equality and human rights. So it's a great job because I have an opportunity to have a conversation with 120 million people on the other side of the world from Australia, but who, like Australians, share many of the same values that we have.
You will come to the human rights bit. I know you just said you have an avalanche of interest in that, but before that, you are presiding over 120 million people, as you said. Is that difficult, a job?
Well, it is, and it would be a lot more normally, but with COVID, it's meant that I've spent more time in Ghana. So I know my predecessor, Andrew Barnes, probably spent at least 1 week every month travelling to Togo, Mali, Burkina Faso, Guinea, Sierra Leone, Liberia, Cote d'Ivoire or Senegal, the other countries for which we have responsibility. But so far, because of COVID, I've had more time to spend here in Ghana. But of course, on a day-to-day level, I work closely with those countries through their ambassadors here in Accra. And one of the things that Ghana has, and a strength of Ghana, is its regional leadership. Its leadership of organisations like ECOWAS, and the fact that Ghana is the host of the Africa Comprehensive Free Trade Agreement. So Accra is a really good place for Australia to be, not only to represent ourselves here in Ghana, but also to project ourselves across West Africa.
Okay. So if had not been COVID, how often would you have been traveling to the rest of the countries that you preside over, the Togo, Mali and others, had not been COVID? Would you also have traveled there once a week?
Probably once or twice a month, I'd say. And I expect to visit Togo and Burkina Faso and Senegal soon to present my credentials to their presidents.
Okay, okay. So the other countries, since you came to Ghana, have you been there?
No, not yet. I haven't had that opportunity yet, but I'm looking forward to it, and I expect it'll be in the next few months.
Okay. Let's come to your role as an ambassador. When you say you are the commissioner of the Australian High Commission, what exactly is your job? What do you do?
So Ghanaians would know, as a Commonwealth country, that between Commonwealth countries we call our ambassadors High Commissioners, but really the difference between a High Commissioner and an ambassador isn't great. But on a day-to-day level, my job is to connect with Ghana and connect Australia with Ghana, both governments but also the private sector. So for example, here in Ghana, Australian mining companies have invested close to $1 billion in the gold mining sector in particular, and they employ hundreds of people, and they create employment and community development and economic growth opportunities in Ghana. So part of my job is to help them connect with the Ghanaian companies and the Ghanaian government to facilitate that economic cooperation. And when I met His Excellency the President of Ghana, that was the thing that he was very interested in, and which he thanked me for, Australia's mining investment in Ghana, which is a very good and ethical and environmentally friendly alternative to the galamsey, the illegal mining, which is damaging the environment and human health, but also stealing Ghana's wealth. So the joint ventures and the Australian mining company investments pay royalties and taxes and adhere to Ghana's laws and do the mining the proper way that creates development opportunities and protects Ghana's beautiful environment.
Great. So you mentioned galamsey. What I know, Australia also has also into mining. What are some of the best practices in Australia that you think that we could employ here? You mentioned galamsey is destroying the environment, the water and the rest. What can we do here?
So Australia has some really interesting and leading environment protection laws that are also good for business. And if I talk about plastic pollution, for example, which I know is a significant problem here, and I see the plastics when I walk my dogs each day, blocking the drains and causing the water to build up, which leads to more malaria, but also the plastics washing into the sea. So, you know, plastic is a huge problem. But what we've done in Australia, we've created laws, we've established laws that create a circular economy. So what we've done is we've banned the export of plastics, and we've also made it mandatory by 2025 that all products, disposable products like coffee cups, plastic bags, containers, all need to be recyclable and made out of recycled materials. So we've created a circular economy, and we've turned pollution into a resource that's creating jobs. So we'll have a cleaner environment and more jobs and more economic growth. So that's a story that I really like to share with Ghana, because I can imagine an Accra with clean beaches that looks like Hawaii or the Gold Coast actually in Australia. One of our most famous beaches is called the Gold Coast, which I know was the name that Ghana once had. But beautiful beaches here and fantastic tourism opportunities, but also by creating the circular economy, that creates jobs in the plastic recycling industry as well.
You cleaned Laboma Beach with an organization somewhere last year, and recently you went on biking behind the University of Ghana. You said you saw a pile of refuse and you were disappointed. You've mentioned how, I mean, plastic pollution is affecting us, but if you look at our nature, the sort of refuse in the system, what do you propose? What can be done?
Well, I think the idea of creating a circular economy where we make waste a valuable resource is a really good one, because then instead of it being seen as a problem, if we make it mandatory for things to be recycled and for materials to be made from recycled products like Australia has done, then we make that a valuable resource. So instead of plastic being seen as something that needs to be thrown away, it's seen as something that needs to be kept and reused and recycled. So probably the best thing to do, I think, is to use the economic incentives of a circular economy to solve this problem.
I know of an African country, I've forgotten the name. You could use the refuse, the plastic and others, to pay for an item that you think you want to buy. Do you think they'd work in Ghana?
So that's a great idea. So in most states of Australia, for example, if you buy a plastic water bottle or a Coke bottle or a Sprite bottle, it has a deposit on the back of it, and you can take each bottle and put it in a machine at your local shops, and you get about 40 peswa back for each bottle. So by putting a recycling value on the bottles, it encourages people to keep those bottles, and rather than letting them fill the drains and wash out to sea and degrade into microplastics which get into our bodies through the food chain, through the fish, we actually capture that plastic and reuse it.
And do you think citizens too, I mean Ghanaians, also have a role to play in this?
Of course, everybody's got a role to play. Governments, the non-government sector. Here at the Australian High Commission, we do our best by recycling, but also using the Australian Aid Program to sponsor projects. We're working with the ladies who are referred to as waste pickers to help them not only collect more rubbish, but we're funding them to develop projects to get more money from the rubbish they collect by recycling it. We've also established a recycled kufor gallon garden wall, and also our chicken coop is made with recycled kufor gallons. So we're doing our part, and everybody can do their part by choosing not to litter and to dispose of their waste properly. One thing I have noticed here in Accra that does worry me is that a lot of the plastics are burnt. But smouldering plastic, which is when plastic is burnt on those heaps with grasses and vegetation matter, where it's not burning really fast, that produces some of the most toxic substances known to man. They're called dioxins, and they cause cancer. And so I do worry about the quality of the air here in Accra when I see people burning plastics, and I would really encourage people to reconsider burning plastic, because it produces very dangerous chemicals that harm everyone, the children here at the schools, but also adults and elderly people.
And you've been across a number of sites and parks in Ghana, the Mole National Park, the Kakum National Park. I follow you on Facebook. What one thing have you learned from all these travels, all these tours?
Well, I think I've learned about the tremendous beauty of nature here in Ghana. You know, Ghana has over 800 bird species. So Ghana is famous across the world for birders. People that love birds come here just to find particular birds. And here in the garden at the High Commission, we have over 27 different bird species that frequently visit our garden, including 2 critically endangered species, the African grey parrot and the hooded vultures. So I think what I've learned is that Ghana's nature and environment is a huge asset. And also when you think about some of Ghana's agricultural commodities and exports, they rely on a clean environment as well. So the shea butter, for example, grows on the shea trees, and they take 20 or 30 years before they start fruiting, and they live for hundreds of years, so they can't really be farmed like palm oil trees or banana or plantain. The shea butter grows in the wild, and I know that the villagers and the people in the north that collect the shea butter, according to their cultures, it's taboo to chop down a shea tree. And so that shows the value that they place on protecting the environment. So the thing that I've learnt here in Ghana about conservation and about the environment, I think, is how integrated it is with people's lives, with human health, whether it's healthy air and the need not to burn plastic, or healthy oceans by protecting the fish stocks, stopping illegal fishing, avoiding plastics going into the ocean, or whether it's protecting the remarkable animals here like the elephants, the pangolins, the aardvarks and the leopards. And one of the things that I'm really proud of the Australian Aid Program for doing is supporting places like Mole National Park, which has over 300 elephants that are critically endangered across Africa and are in decline. And so the Australian government, through our aid program, is really pleased and proud to be working with Ghana to protect its elephants.
Wow. So these areas you've been to, the tourist sites you've been to, do you see the sense of our tourism industry growing?
I think Ghana's tourism industry has the same potential as Australia's, if not bigger. So in Australia, before COVID, tourism was the single biggest foreign exchange earner in our country.
Wow.
We earn more foreign exchange from tourism than we do from gold, coal, iron ore, wine, wheat, and all the other things that we export and that we're famous for. We have a beautiful landscape, and we have a beautiful clean environment, and we have rich nature and culture to share with 60,000 years of ongoing Indigenous culture. And that's why people visit Australia. When we ask tourists, why did you come to Australia? They came to see our clean environment, and they came to experience Indigenous culture. So here in Ghana, particularly if Ghana can get its plastic pollution under control, being only 6 hours flight from Europe, Australia, it takes more than a day of flying to get to Europe, but Europeans still travel all that way to Australia to experience our Indigenous cultures and our beautiful environment. And here you've got stunning beaches, amazing national parks, wildlife, and an incredibly rich and diverse culture to share. For example, I've seen on the Accra Plains, on the mountains on the Accra Plains, carvings and rock carvings that existed long before Europeans invaded this place. And I've seen forts that were built by African people before the Europeans arrived to protect themselves from the Europeans when the Europeans were invading. And those same carvings and those similar structures exist in Australia when Indigenous Australians survived in the landscape. So those sort of things are things that people from all over the world will be fascinated to learn about and see, and the tourism revenue can help protect them. So that's another area that the Australian Government and the High Commission here, we're interested in working with Ghana on, is the cultural tourism and how we can support Ghana to promote its cultural tourism like we do in Australia.
I know many people watching you would want to, having spoken about how beautiful Australia is, the culture and all that, they would want to visit Australia. America has the diversity lottery. Has Australia anything like that so that Ghanaians could also take advantage and go and see Australia?
Australia, you can visit Australia in a number of ways, as a tourist, as a student. Actually, over the last 10 years, 700 Ghanaians have studied in Australia thanks to the Australia Awards program, which is our scholarship program. But you're right, people can also immigrate to Australia. Actually, Australia, Canada and Germany are the top 3 countries in the world for welcoming refugees and immigrants. So we have an immigration program, and the information about that program, you can find that on our department, our Border Force website. It's a fair system, but it also has to be strict, because we have to be fair to everyone, and we also have to protect our borders like everyone else.
Okay. A bit about you. Growing up, did you envisage that you want to be a diplomat?
That's a good question, actually, and I would say no. However, when I was at university, one of my friends at university was from Bangladesh, and she'd lived all over the world. She'd lived in London and Rio de Janeiro, and I said, how did you get to grow up in so many interesting places? And she told me her mum and dad were diplomats. So that's when I decided I wanted to be a diplomat, when I was at university.
Okay.
I think when I was a child, I didn't really know what I wanted to do.
Wow. And since you became a diplomat, are you enjoying your profession?
Look, I love being a diplomat. I'm a very proud Australian, and I'm very proud and honoured to represent the Australian people, but also I'm fascinated with other cultures and countries and feel incredibly honoured and welcome to be here in Ghana. So it's really good to be able to facilitate trade and investment, cooperate with Ghana's government on important issues like the United Nations, human rights, gender equality, and reform of the Security Council, for example, of the United Nations, where Africa doesn't have a permanent seat, and Australia doesn't think that's fair, that over 1 billion people have no permanent representation on the Security Council. So Security Council reform, the responsibility to protect citizens from violence, atrocity prevention, peacekeeping. These are all really important issues that we enjoy working with Ghana on, and that we have very similar, if not the same, views in the United Nations.
Are you going to push for Africa to get representation on the Security Council?
Australia supports a much more fairer system for the Security Council. So at the moment, the Security Council, the permanent members of the Security Council are the countries that won a war that ended 70 years ago. China, Russia, the United States,
USA.
the United Kingdom and France. And it's not really reflective of the world today, is it? There's no permanent seat or representation for the peoples of Africa. Asia has China, but China isn't representing East Asia or the Pacific. It's representing itself. Which I would respect, because that's what its position is. Europe has 2 representatives, and the Americas has 1, but there's no sharing. Well, Europe has 3 actually, with Russia as well. So Australia thinks the Security Council needs to reform, and we've always been willing to work with other countries to achieve a system that's more representative. And the other thing we'd like to see is a significant reduction in the use of the veto power. So at the moment, the permanent members of the Security Council, if one of them opposes something, then no decision can go ahead. And we think in many circumstances that's really reduced the United Nations and the Security Council's capacity to do what needs to be done to protect people in situations of violence and war across the world.
Who are your parents? You have siblings too?
Yeah, so look, my mum was a maths teacher and biology teacher, and my father was an engineer and worked in the mines, and my sister is a vet. So she's an animal doctor.
Okay.
And that's my family back in Australia. Yeah, here in Ghana I have my wife and my 2 children with me.
They are back? They're here now?
They're here now. So yeah, when I first arrived I came by myself, but they arrived before Christmas, so we're all together, which is great.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Because I saw your post on Facebook, you doing the cooking, messing Australia, doing Australian dishes. So are you enjoying both Australian dishes and that of Ghana?
I do. So actually I really enjoy, and I just voted on the WFP's Twitter question about which is the best kenke, and I said the Ga kenke was the best. I really like fufu, and I think I created a bit of controversy early on because I ate fufu, leftover fufu. Cecilia, who works here at the High Commission, made me some delicious fufu one Friday night, and I ate some of it, but then I left the rest in the fridge and had it for breakfast on Monday morning. And people were like, wow, you must really be Ghanaian if you're eating leftover fufu. Yeah, but actually I also really like, it may not necessarily be strictly Ghanaian, but I like the chicken and the tilapia with the avocado salad that you get from the Ivorian behind ShopRite.
Okay.
I really find that fresh and delicious. So of course I love African food. In Australia we're a multicultural democracy. A lot of people think Australia's a Western country, but we're not a Western country. We're located in the South Pacific actually, and 50% of Australians at home speak a language other than English because we're very multicultural. So they could be Chinese, Vietnamese, Arabic, Indonesian, or even Twi. We have Twi speakers. And because of that, our food is a reflection of our diversity.
Did you mean Twi?
Twi, yeah.
Okay.
We have Ghanaian Australians, who speak Twi. And so our food reflects that diversity. We bring together in Australia the best of the world.
Wow.
And so I'm interested here in Ghana. And for example, this morning I met a lady who grows mushrooms. Okay. Her name is Fafafe, and she has a company called E10, which grow those really delicious flat Ghanaian mushrooms. And what I would like to see is the Italian restaurants here in Ghana, instead of importing the button mushrooms from Europe, why not use Ghanaian? And why not bring together the Italian style cooking with the Ghanaian ingredients? And that's what we're trying to do here at the High Commission. When I have people over for dinner, for example, we try as much as possible to use food that we've grown here at the High Commission and use the eggs from the chickens and guinea fowls that we have here at the High Commission, but also combine the best of Australian ingredients with the best of Ghanaian ingredients.
Wow. I would like to taste one of Australian dishes one of these days.
You'll be very welcome. We'll have you over for dinner.
Thank you in advance. You appear supportive of Ghanaian businesses, especially the small scale businesses. What drives you? What is your motivation? I see you on social media, your Facebook handle, you supporting this. You just mentioned one lady that you bought the mushroom from. What drives you? What pushes you to support Ghanaian businesses?
Yeah, look, there are two things that I think really drive me to support small businesses. And the first is, I think in Australia, something that we call a fair go. But in Australia, we really believe in equality. And we believe in equality for everyone. So when I see small businesses, I think they deserve a fair go. They need a chance. So I like to support them and put my money into the local economy to give them a fair go. But the other thing, as a trained economist, the other thing that I know is that small businesses make up the lion's share of the economy. And so if we really want to have a strong, vibrant and resilient economy in Australia or Ghana, we need to support small businesses. So they're the two reasons that I like to support small businesses. And for example, just across the road, the cane weavers, if I need any sewing done, I go to Rita across the road. If I need some cane wear, I go to Charles. And if I wanted to buy some nice antiques, I'd go to Mr. Abu. And then Agatha up the road sells bread. And Eric and Erica sell lovely flowers down on the roundabout. So by buying products from them, I'm also part of their community, and I'm sending a message that they're part of my community. So it actually just makes life better because we're all together, we're in this together.
Usually we don't expect big men, big guys in the society to, for instance, go to a local barber, say you're going to have a haircut. But I saw you too, you posted a picture of a barber, you had a haircut there.
Yes.
When you go to that level, to the ordinary man's level, how do you feel?
So I am an ordinary man, and in Australia we don't believe in the concept of big men. We believe in the concept of equality. So to give you an example, our Prime Minister sits in traffic jams. And the only sirens that you see in Australia are ambulances, or police cars or fire engines. But also the police aren't allowed to use their siren unless it's an emergency. It's illegal for them to use their siren just because they're impatient. So in Australia we don't believe in the concept of big men. We believe in the concept of a fair go and that everyone deserves the same rights to equality. So for me, really, I don't even think about it because yes, I am Australia's High Commissioner, but I'm Gregory Andrews and I'm an Australian citizen and I'm a member of the cantonments community here. And so I like to support the other members of the cantonments community, whether they're the people selling bread or the barber. And so for me, it's just a part of who I am, but I think it's also an expression of the Australian cultural value of equality and a fair go for everyone.
So that appears to be, as you said, a culture of the Australians. Would you suggest we incorporate it into our education, the need to bond with everybody?
I think in general, I think Ghanaians are very good, and maybe the reason Ghanaians are so interested in me doing that is because Ghanaians have the same view. Ghanaians support each other. Ghana is an incredibly peaceful country, an incredibly friendly country, and everywhere I walk down the street and around the Labone and cantonments area, people always say hello and give me a smile. So I think that sense of common humanity is already here in Ghana.
Do you speak Twi, a little bit of Twi now?
Not yet. Actually, I feel a little bit remiss about that because I think learning local languages is a really important part of showing respect to the people whose land you're on. But actually, until quite recently, I've been focusing on Mandarin Chinese because I speak Mandarin and French, but also every 2 years I have to re-accredit. I have to resit my examination. So actually at the end of last month I sat my Chinese exam and passed that. So now I've got that out of the way, so my next challenge is Twi, but also I have been asking people, because I know this is actually technically Ga land, so maybe I should be learning Ga, because
yeah.
that is actually learning the language of the local, the original owners of the land.
Perfect. I'm also studying Chinese currently.
Okay.
Yes. Perhaps I should say ni hao to you.
Oh, 谢谢.
And do you have a tree teacher?
Not yet.
I want to volunteer.
Oh, thank you very much. That'd be great.
Let's go to COVID.
Yes.
I saw you went to Choco somewhere last week or last 2 weeks to distribute nose masks to them.
Yes.
What was the motivation?
Yeah, so my motivation was twofold. I wanted to actually help people who are disadvantaged and may not have the capacity or the money to buy masks. But my motivation was also to raise awareness. It really concerns me actually here in Accra that the President has said people need to mask up, but people aren't masking up. And the current peak in COVID cases at the moment is much higher than the last peak. And the daily deaths is higher than it's ever been. And so I wanted to raise awareness. I wanted to help individual disadvantaged people in the poorer parts of Accra, but I also wanted to get the message out there to everyone that if we're not socially distancing like you and I are at the moment, that we need to be masking up, because COVID actually doesn't care at all about the colour of your skin. And if you get sick with COVID, you can get really sick. And I know that Ghana's hospitals are already just about at full capacity. So if you get sick with COVID and there's no hospital bed, then you could very well pass away. And for most of those deaths, it's avoidable if we mask up and sanitize and social distance.
The fabric that was used for the nose mask, I think we said it's Australian origin.
Yes, so I bought the fabric from Australia, and it has kangaroos and wallabies on it, and then I used a design that I found here, a local design and a local seamstress to make the nose masks here in Ghana.
Okay, that's nice.
Yeah.
I know Australia is working towards bettering the lot of its neighbors in terms of COVID, the vaccine. What is Australia also doing to support Ghana in these trying times?
Yeah, so look, Australia has an ambitious plan to vaccinate everybody in Australia by October, and the vaccinations are starting right now in Australia at this moment. We've actually been one of the most successful countries at dealing with COVID in the world. We've actually had very few cases of COVID. On most days in Australia, we have no new COVID cases. So we've had strict quarantine, and now we're rolling out our vaccines. And also Australia is one of the few countries in the world that can make vaccines. So what we've done is we've made a commitment to vaccinate everybody in Australia and to support our Pacific Island neighbours and our Southeast Asian neighbours like Indonesia and East Timor. And then through the United Nations, we've committed $80 million already to the COVAX facility of the United Nations, which I know has already allocated 2.4 million vaccines here to Ghana.
Okay. You describe yourself as a feminist. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. And the reason I say that I'm a feminist is that I want my daughter to have the same aspirations and the same opportunities as my son. But even in Australia, which is much further advanced than many parts of the world on gender equality, girls are still more disadvantaged than boys. So until we have true gender equality, I'll always identify as a feminist.
Must everybody be a feminist?
I actually would encourage everybody to be a feminist, because being a feminist and gender equality isn't a threat to anyone, it's an opportunity for everyone.
There's one thing about you that I think I'm much interested in. You wear African fabric. When did you start wearing them? Coming to Ghana, or probably even while in Australia?
Before I arrived in Ghana, I hadn't worn any African fabric, and I brought some suits with me.
I see.
Business suits. But after about 2 weeks, I noticed everybody else who was wearing the kaftans and the African fabrics looked a lot more comfortable. So I actually asked one of the young men who's the best dressed man in the High Commission, Salom. I asked him for his tailor, and he took me to his tailor, And after I had my first kaftan made, I haven't really looked back.
Yeah, it fits you very, very, very well.
Thank you very much.
Very well. So are you now, have you discarded your suits?
My suits are up the back of the cupboard, and I rarely ever wear them, and I'd much rather wear a kaftan or an African print shirt for sure.
For about 4 years or so, I've also been wearing African print, and we are entering March. In March, we say it's Ghana month, and so you would hear or you see the media trumpeting that Ghanaians should wear Ghana, eat Ghana, and all that. Perhaps as an ambassador also for Ghanaian fabric, what do you tell your followers?
Look, I would tell them to definitely, I don't think Ghanaians really need to be encouraged to wear African print. Here at the High Commission, we wear it just about every day. But I would say definitely get out there and wear those beautiful African prints and share a really beautiful, vibrant part of your culture and your identity.
Now let's do a bit about you more, then we can wrap up. You mentioned that you're a trained economist.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Can you tell me a bit about how you got into economics?
So I studied economics at university, and it was actually my second choice. I wanted to be a national park ranger, actually.
Okay.
And the year that I finished school and started university, the course for park rangers was cancelled because back then in the late 80s, not enough people were interested, I think. And so my second choice was economics. So it was a little bit of chance, you could say, that I studied economics. But I think studying economics gave me a really good understanding of how the world works. And also I focused on development economics and understanding the drivers of development, what causes poverty, and how communities, societies and countries can break out of poverty and achieve sustainable development.
Okay.
And so development economics and environmental economics became a real interest and passion.
Is it only economics you studied at university?
Yes, I studied economics first, and then I did my master's degree in international relations.
Oh, okay.
So once I realised that I wanted to be a diplomat and I joined our foreign ministry, then I studied foreign affairs.
Okay.
But while I was at university, I came from quite a humble background. I grew up in poverty.
Really?
And that's one of the things that I like about Australia. We're a country, I talked about a fair go and equality for everyone. And so as a young boy, at one stage I lived in a caravan, you know, like with my mother and my sister.
Wow.
But when I was at university, I worked in a chicken abattoir actually to pay my way through university and to have enough money for rent and food. And that was a really good experience. So it's not pleasant working in an abattoir, but it helped ground me because a lot of people don't have the choice of where they want to work. But by going to university, that gave me a choice. It helped open doors. But working in the abattoir actually also showed me the sort of work that many people have to do every day who don't have a choice. And it taught me the value of education and the power of education.
Would you say your background, you tasted poverty to an extent? Don't you think that is why you have love for humanity?
It could be, but I think I do anyway. And I think I don't identify as a rich person or a poor person or as a powerful person or as a disempowered person. I identify as a human being. And that's why I support everyone. I support people who believe in Islam, and I'm against Islamophobia. I support people with disabilities. I support women for gender equality. I think everybody deserves a fair go, regardless of who they are or where they're from. That's why I'm against racism. That's why I support Africa, and why I support Africa having a seat on the Security Council, because I believe Africa deserves a fair go.
Have you been listening to Ghanaian music?
Yes, I have. And actually, my favourite Ghanaian musician continues to be Wiala, I have to say. But I also quite like some of the older music from the 1970s and 80s as well.
Okay.
Yeah,
What
the
about
Afro pop
Okay.
and the jazz and that era as well.
What about the rap, the dance hall? Do you listen to such too?
I haven't really got into the rap and the dance hall, but I wouldn't be surprised if my son got into the Ghanaian rap. He's quite a fan of Eminem, who obviously isn't Ghanaian, but my son is quite a big fan of rap.
Okay. Do you see him singing or be rapping rather?
You'd have to ask him.
Right. Yeah. I can't end this interview without asking about Kofi.
Oh yes.
And Rika.
Yeah. They're both very well. Actually, Kofi and Rika have both been going to the vet quite a lot lately, though. Rika, because we decided that it was time for her to get desexed after the puppies. We thought that's enough. She deserves a break. And Kofi, because Kofi's actually had something called hotspot, which I find it quite amusing because the vet said Ghanaian dogs don't usually get this. It's usually the pedigree dogs that get it, but it's sort of like pimples. But maybe he's been eating too much rich food or something like that. But Kofi and Rika are two of my best friends here in Ghana, and the people in cantonments and Labone see me walking almost every day, every morning, and often in the evenings as well with Kofi and Rika.
You had a bit of uproar on social media when you wanted to name him, or when you named him Kofi. I'm actually Kofi. So was that a cultural shock for you that people were surprised you could name a dog Kofi?
I think I was surprised. Look, actually, I didn't name him Kofi.
Okay.
He's been called Kofi for about 6 years.
Wow.
And he was brought in and adopted to the High Commission on a Friday, which is why he was given the name Kofi. Actually, at one stage, I suggested, after hearing on the internet, that I should change his name. I suggested it to the team here, and everyone was horrified. The Ghanaian staff were like, no, you can't rename him. That's always been his name. And you would know we had a vote on it actually on Facebook and Twitter, and 65% of Ghanaians voted to keep Kofi. But I have to admit, I've started avoiding mentioning his name on social media because people that haven't been following and don't remember that, they get cross and they start getting angry again and saying that I'm disrespecting Ghana's culture. I have immense respect for Ghana and for Ghana's people, and I also have immense respect for human rights. So, and sometimes in all countries you have to balance those two. But Kofi is a lovely dog and he's one of my best friends. And in Australia we call our dog human names.
Okay.
And actually we call our dog a name because we love our dogs. And so the name that you give a dog is a mark of respect to the person or the name that you've given the dog. So you could almost say it's the opposite. In Australia, for example, if I named my dog after the Prime Minister or a famous person, that's a mark of respect to the Prime Minister or the famous person. So you could almost say maybe our culture in Australia is the opposite.
Yes.
How do you feel though about Kofi being called Kofi? Does it worry you?
Well, when I saw it at first, I said, wow. But I didn't get offended. Actually.
Yeah.
I didn't get offended. Yeah. I didn't get offense. Yeah.
That's good to know. Yeah, because there's no offence meant. And actually, as I said on the Facebook post when we had the vote, if more Ghanaians had voted to change Kofi's name, I would have changed it. But I was actually quite surprised, but also relieved that 65% of people said no, keep Kofi. Yeah.
I actually didn't get offended because if you go to the voter, people name their children peace, love, victory, and all that.
Yes.
And we use same names for our pets, especially dogs. So if someone names their dog Peace, or Victor, then similarly someone could also name the dog Kofi or Yao.
Yeah, we call our dogs and cats almost anything in Australia, but 90% of the time we give them human names. Yeah.
Interesting. His Excellency, it's been a pleasure talking to you. But before we go, your last message to Ghanaians and then Australians in general, and then to the other 8 countries you preside over in West Africa.
Well, I would just say thank you so much for having me here at Ghana, and all West Africans. It's an honour and a privilege to be here living on your land. And to Australia, I say thank you for giving me the trust to represent you here with the 120 million people in West Africa.
Right. Thank you so much for giving us this rare opportunity to engage you.
Thanks,
I'm
Solomon.
much grateful.
It's a pleasure having you here.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Right, so that brings an end to the interview. My name is Solomon Mensah. My cameraman, Jones Dejo, Benjamin Tenkran, and visual editor, Stephen Yeboah. Let me say a special thank you to Madam Mercy Ajabin for making this interview possible. I'm much grateful, Madam. Thank you so much for watching. Kindly subscribe to the channel. I'm grateful for watching.